Now, I have 2 inmates from my district currently on death row that have filed claims under the Racial Justice Act. One of them is Terry Ball from Beaufort County. He is white. He killed the wife of a preacher. She was a white female. On the early morning hours, he knocked on his preacher's door, asked to come in. The preacher offered him a cup of coffee, offered him something to drink. When Terry Ball demanded money, the preacher refused. Terry Ball pulled out a knife, stabbed him in the face, stabbed him in the gut. He, of course, started screaming. His wife comes out, the preacher's wife. She screams, runs down the hall. Terry Ball pulls the knife out of the stomach of Reverend Krantz, follows her down the hall, stabs her repeatedly, killing her in front of her own daughter. Now, Terry Ball is white. His victim was white. I've yet to figure out how he can claim racial discrimination, but I think the answer is because he can. He can use statistics from some other part of North Carolina to try to show racial discrimination in his case. Secondly, Rashay Smith was from Washington County. Similarly, he knocked on the door of an unsuspecting neighbor named Charles King. Asked Mr. King for a glass of water. Mr. King invited him in. He turned his back. The defendant strangled him, rendering him unconscious. Then the defendant took a clear roll of packing tape and bound his wrists together. He looked for a clock and got an extension cord and wrapped his wrists together and his ankles together. And then the defendant took that clear roll of packing tape and completely wrapped his entire head, covering his mouth and nose until he suffocated and died. He then robbed him and stole his car. Now, in this particular case, ladies and gentlemen, the defendant, Rashay Smith, is African American. His victim, Mr. Charles King, was African American. Now, I have a picture that some of you can see. This is what Mr. King looked like a few days later when he was found dead, with his head completely wrapped in packing tape. The doctor in that case testified that Mr. King, once he was rendered unconscious, still could have regained consciousness and could have been aware of his surroundings. The doctor also said that once his face was covered and wrapped in tape, he would have been brain dead in 2 to 3 minutes. His heart would have stopped in 10 to 20 minutes. So I asked, in that particular case, a Washington County jury did find him guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced him to death. And my question, if you look at that photo, do you believe that the defendant was sentenced to death in that case because of his race? I submit not.